The desert air swirls with ancient secrets, rattling across Iraq's timeless landscape, echoing a saga older than the crumbling stones beneath our feet. Hidden beneath the sun-bleached remnants of Sumer, where humanity's first great cities emerged almost magically from barren earth, lingers a riddle that has fueled curiosity for ages. Who exactly were the Anunnaki? In the earliest tales from humankind's foundational civilization, these beings were depicted as powerful figures, gods descending from unknown realms to sculpt the destiny of mankind. But imagine for a moment that the Sumerians weren't simply inventing stories about divine rulers. Picture them instead archiving records of encounters far more mysterious, strangers from beyond the earth, from a distant world, or maybe even guides from another age, whose wisdom became the bedrock for all that followed. This is the enigma waiting at the edge of our dreamscape. Sumerians spoke in awe of those who came down from above. The term Anunnaki can be broken apart in their language. Anu, representing the sky deity, and Fi, meaning earth. Combined, it implies children of the sky god upon the land, or perhaps even more intriguingly, noble offspring who descended to our world, unlike other mythologies, where spirits emerge from woods, rivers, or mountains. These figures weren't conceived from earthly elements. They arrived, descending from the heights, carrying gifts of knowledge that altered wandering tribes into architects of cities, crafters of law, and watchers of the cosmos. But the enduring question remains, who were they truly? Were they gods, as priestly voices in distant sanctuaries maintained, their whispers filling temple corridors, or could they have been travelers whose origins dissolved over centuries of retelling, their memories fading into the clay tablets left behind by ancient scribes? In 1849, the British explorer Sir Austen Henry Layard knelt in the ancient city of Nineveh, carefully brushing aside layers of time to reveal the first Sumerian writings, precious slivers of tablet buried beneath centuries of sand. Among these relics, Layard encountered the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation saga, which itself was rooted in even older Sumerian traditions. This ancient text portrayed the Anunnaki as meticulous creators, shaping the world not with theatrical miracles, but with practical skill. They taught people how to write, calculate numbers, and harness wild rivers through intricate networks of canals. They bestowed the machine divine rules and principles steering everything from kingship to craftsmanship. Reading through the cuneiform markings, Layard couldn't help but sense an unnerving detail. These beings seemed less like remote divinities and more like expert instructors sharing methods rather than miracles. This impression only deepened in 1956, as Dr. Samuel Noah Kramer, a pioneering scholar of Sumerology, painstakingly examined thousands of tablets preserved in the archives of the University of Pennsylvania. Kramer's translations described the Anunnaki with a surprisingly concrete tone. In one story, Enki, the god of wisdom, tours Sumerian cities like a modern consultant, assigning each the technologies and know-how necessary to thrive. Eridu gained advanced irrigation methods, with detailed notes on canal depths and gate placements. Other cities received step-by-step instructions for making bricks, specifying exactly how to mix the ingredients. In Nippur, Enki left astronomical guides for tracking Venus's cycle. Kramer realized these weren't vague proclamations, but tightly defined project plans. The Anunnaki weren't just spiritual inspirations. They seemed to be hands-on architects of civilization's inner workings. But what if their influence had a scientific, not a supernatural, origin? Fast forward to 1972, when a bold researcher named Zecharia Sitchin put forth an interpretation that captured imaginations and sparked heated debate across the world. Diving into the same Sumerian texts that Kramer had translated, Sitchin argued that the Anunnaki were not gods, but visitors from a distant planet called Nibiru, orbiting far beyond the map of our solar system. Mainstream scholars mostly rejected Sitchin's theories, critiquing his translations and calling his claims speculative. Still, even his harshest critics struggle to explain away the remarkable intricacy of certain Sumerian relics. One such artifact is the cylinder seal VA-243, discovered among Akkadian ruins and housed at Berlin's Vorderasiatisches Museum. This compact limestone cylinder, when pressed onto fresh clay, produces an image that continues to confound experts. At the heart of the seal, there's a luminous star clearly representing the sun, encircled by 11 distinct orbs, all positioned in a formation that uncannily mirrors our solar system. The planets are sized relatively, Jupiter appearing massive, Mercury shown as pinpoint small, and other bodies grouped with striking resemblance to astronomical charts. Such knowledge should have been impossible for people living in 2500 BCE, who supposedly believed that the sun revolved around the Earth. Yet, here was evidence pressed by ancient hands depicting a solar system that would remain scientifically invisible until Copernicus outlined his heliocentric model in 1543. Scholars such as Michael Heiser have long challenged Sitchin's interpretations, contending that the image at the center of the VA 243 seal isn't the sun at all. Instead, Heiser argues it represents a deity, and the surrounding orbs are simply stars forming a constellation, not planets. He and others also mention the absence of Earth's moon, and point out that Sumerian astronomy didn't mention every planet we recognize today. Still, supporters of Sitchin's ideas argue that the differing sizes and arrangement of these spheres hint at insights no ordinary stargazer could have known, possibly a layout provided by outsiders familiar with the true design of our solar system. The debate continues, with some pointing out that if you count 11 bodies plus the central sun, you reach 12, matching Sitchin's theory of a 12th planet, where Nibiru completes the cosmic roster. Sitchin supports his claims with passages from texts like the Enuma Elish, describing the god Enki slaughtering another figure and infusing clay figures with his blood, which Sitchin reads as a metaphor for genetic experimentation. However, skepticism abounds. Linguists and archaeologists accuse Sitchin of picking and misinterpreting cuneiform phrases to fit his narrative. For instance, the term Anunnaki is more accurately translated as royal offspring or those of princely blood, not necessarily aliens. Sitchin's take on the word Shim as rocket ship is debated, as it more appropriately means name or reputation in original texts. Yet, regardless of academic backlash, Sitchin's theories have seeped deep into pop culture, shaping everything from ancient aliens TV shows to modern UFO myths. Even after his death in 2010, Janet Sitchin, his niece, published the Anunnaki Chronicles, a comprehensive dive into his life's research, keeping his speculation alive for new generations. But there's another twist that takes this mystery into even stranger territory. What if the Anunnaki didn't simply arrive from a faraway world, but from a distant future? Imagine entities not traveling through space, but through time, mastering the art of slipping through hidden doors in reality, not rockets. This time traveler idea, explored in speculative documentaries and science fiction, suggests many UFO encounters and ancient visitations could actually involve humans coming back to witness or arrange their own beginnings. Within this framework, the Anunnaki might be evolved descendants of humanity, wielding sophisticated technology, perhaps quantum machines, capable of stepping into different eras, choosing to visit periods pivotal to human development. Their famous descent from heaven could describe passage through wormholes or folds in time, not a literal landing from the sky. Nibiru, as described by Sitchin, could symbolize some looming disaster or astronomical event that pushes future humans to intervene in their own timeline. This theory becomes especially provocative when you notice seemingly prophetic elements in Sumerian lore, ancient flood myths, echoing later stories of Noah, where the Anunnaki warn of impending doom, as if they already know what's coming. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Utnapishtim survives a cataclysm after receiving strict warnings, almost like someone working to guarantee the survival of the human line. If the Anunnaki were time travelers, genetic modifications might have been their attempt at fortifying the species, injecting resilience or intelligence to change the course of history, an idea that resonates with quantum mechanics theories about observers impacting the past. Their arrival in ancient Sumer could form a paradox. They create the civilization destined one day to invent time travel, closing a loop in the story of humanity. The Mason, those legendary cosmic principles, could be blueprints not just for building cities, but for structuring the timeline itself. Ancient alien theorists have even suggested that, should these hidden records be made public, we might discover clues tying the Anunnaki to the very roots of monotheism. Could their leader Anu have inspired the image of later sky gods like Yahweh? Could Enki, the bringer of knowledge, be the serpent in the Genesis story, tempting humans with forbidden wisdom? Some even speculate that world powers occasionally consult these vaults during moments of crisis, seeking advice bound in prehistoric wisdom to respond to UFO sightings or time anomalies. When Pope Pius XII's archives were made more accessible in 2020, people hoped for a revelation. None came, so rumors only grew that the most startling documents remain out of reach. As you sink deeper into this mystery, consider global myths echoing the same strange tales. The Dogon people of Mali, for example, speak of Sirius Bir, an invisible white dwarf star they learned about from aquatic visitors from the sky, a tale strikingly similar to Enki's watery domain. In India, stories recount the Vimanas, flying craft piloted by ancient gods, possibly Anunnaki vehicles, or even machines for navigating time. Stories from Mesoamerica introduce the legend of Quetzalcoatl, a feathered serpent who descended from the stars to teach humankind, his tales full of cosmic wisdom mirroring Enki's gifts to the Sumerians. The similarities in these accounts across continents suggest neither a coincidence nor isolated invention, but hints at some kind of worldwide intervention, possibly orchestrated by forces capable of moving not just through the cosmos, but across ages. Sitchin's critics, especially Michael Heiser, label his work as unscientific and built upon questionable language analysis, stressing that credible scholars do not accept his theories. Yet, Sitchin's influence cannot be denied. Millions have read his books, and his ideas have stirred the imagination behind podcasts, films, and a wave of modern fascination with ancient mysteries. Even the New York Times, in a profile published in 2010, depicted Sitchin as a determined and solitary researcher, standing firm in his beliefs until his passing. Through his niece's dedicated compilations, his research remains accessible, welcoming curious readers into the depths of his theories. Returning to the mysterious VA 243 seal, the artifact sits at the heart of this debate, originating in the Akkadian period between 2350 and 2150 BCE. The impression is of a seated figure, perhaps a monarch or deity, surrounded by attendants, and that captivating constellation of dots. Where Sitchin views a solar diagram showing the Sun and 11 planets, including the elusive Nibiru, traditionalists argue these dots merely represent divine figures, celestial groups, or mythic tales, such as the Pleiades cluster. The seal carries no written reference to planetary systems. It may simply serve as a merchant's mark. Still, the deliberate choice to vary the size of the dots sparks endless intrigue. Why not render them identical if they're just ornamentation? Some interpret the pattern as a map of the Anunnaki's home, or if seen through the lens of time travel, a diagram of branching timelines, with Nibiru marking a temporal anomaly, a singularity where time itself twists. These thoughts echo speculations from theoretical physics, where researchers like Kip Thorne have mapped possible wormholes that could, in theory, allow journeys between distant eras. Could the seal immortalize such knowledge, handed down by beings who mastered time? As the winds die down and the evening deepens over broken ruins, the legacy of the Anunnaki persists, phantom architects haunting the machine of history. Were they celestial engineers from Nibiru, shaping humanity and extracting gold, or wanderers from a fractured tomorrow, stepping down to nudge civilization back from the brink? Within the shadowed corridors of the Vatican, some believe the ultimate answers rest, locked behind centuries of secrecy. Artifacts like VA 243 whisper their riddles, but the truth remains shrouded, buried deeper than stone. So as you drift towards sleep, consider, are we the descendants of these cosmic artists, crafted by constellations or by moments strung together across epochs, or just experiments, riding the endless desert of time? If the murmurs of lost titans and secret histories have sparked your curiosity, stay close for more tales designed both to soothe your mind and awaken a sense of wonder. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it in your part of the world? Let us know as you settle in. While dawn peaks slowly over the stony hills of southeastern Turkey, its rays stretch across a landscape that has guarded its mysteries for over 11,000 years. The site shattered conventional wisdom about how and when societies began building together. Each pillar wasn't just a slab of stone, but a carefully engineered monument, quarried with basic stone tools, hauled across rough ground without wheels or beasts, and then set upright in sockets fitted with astonishing accuracy. As Schmidt traced the intricate carvings, foxes, snakes, vultures, wild boars, and abstract symbols, he understood that these images were not random. The artistry revealed a culture thinking symbolically, their relief so vivid and deliberate that some figures even appeared to be clothed and posed in ritualistic stances. Were these meant just to decorate, or did they encode a message for those living thousands of years later? Excavation continued for decades, led first by Schmidt until 2014, and then Dr. Nekmi Karul. What they discovered only deepened the puzzle. Göbekli Tepe was not a one-time construction, but a multi-layered masterpiece updated and expanded over centuries, some circles boasting ever larger pillars and more complex carvings. Yet, oddly, there were no obvious permanent dwellings nearby. No houses, no fire pits, no evidence of farming or food storage on a scale that could have supported a labor force of this magnitude. It was as if the builders appeared from nowhere, raised this monumental sanctuary, and then faded back into obscurity. Standing in the shadow of these stones, Schmidt often felt a chill, fully aware that Göbekli Tepe was rewriting the story of civilization in ways we have only begun to fathom. This astonishing sight wasn't the byproduct of a wandering band learning as they went. It was crafted by a society that held on to knowledge, organized on a grand scale, and preserved blueprints across generations. Yet for decades, the actual footprints of these people, where they lived, worked, and planned, remained invisible. That changed dramatically in 2025. In February of that year, archaeologists revealed that they had unearthed sophisticated living quarters at Göbekli Tepe, shelters, elaborate arrays of processing tools, and a strikingly complex water system, with reservoirs holding as much as 150 cubic meters. According to reports in sources like the Jerusalem Post, these revelations undermined the long-standing theory that Göbekli was simply a sacred pilgrimage site. Instead, the evidence points to a lively settlement, one where hunter-gatherers didn't just honor the stars but settled, toiled, and perhaps began the earliest attempts at domestication. Chemical and organic analyses of plaster and toolkit remains lock-in occupation dates from 9,500 to 8,000 BCE, bridging the enigmatic pre-pottery Neolithic A and B epochs. A pristine boar statue, freshly unearthed, became a magnet for online speculation. Was its near-perfect condition a result of high-level preservation or special rituals? But perhaps the most sensational findings tie Göbekli Tepe's enigmatic carvings to the heavens. Scientific reporting from 2024 and follow-up coverage in 2025 points to in-depth astronomical analysis of the site's reliefs. Researchers, including Martin Sweatman from the University of Edinburgh, suggest the vulture stone references a cosmic event, a comet swarm striking Earth around 10,950 BCE and driving the planet into the Younger Dryas, a catastrophic cooling period. Sweatman argues that carved animal motifs map to star patterns and constellations visible 11,000 years ago. The stone circles align with astronomical phenomena, tracking the seasonal rising of Sirius as well as solstices and equinoxes, proving the builders calculated celestial rhythms as expertly as later Sumerians or Egyptians. This paints a baffling picture. How could nomadic groups living on the edge of the Ice Age achieve such precision in astronomy and construction? Why dedicate their lives to building a massive monument to the stars? The answer appears inscribed in the artwork: animals, birds, and even stylized human shapes, seemingly placed in deliberate story-like sequences, as if encoding popular myths or cosmic disasters. Schmidt was especially captivated by repeated representations of human-like forms with anatomically accurate features, as if these artisans carved from memory or were depicting revered elders, or, as some have proposed, their mentors, those honored as gods or extraordinary teachers. The strange echoes with Sumerian myth are impossible to ignore. The Sumerians recounted that their wisdom came from the Anunnaki, those who came down from heaven. Göbekli Tepe is older by thousands of years, Yet its scale and knowledge suggest an unbroken thread, a legacy of instruction stretching through the ages. Some wonder aloud if these two wonders are linked, not by time but by shared mentors, ancient teachers passing the plan from old Anatolia to the first cities on the Mesopotamian plain. Where hard data ends, speculation rushes in. Fringe theorists online and across alternative history platforms propose that Göbekli Tepe wasn't only a temple or observatory but a gateway, a stargate, or device used to channel cosmic energy or connect to distant realms. The iconic T-shaped monoliths, with their haunting human forms, are viewed as keys in a massive mechanism, their engravings a code waiting for the right hands. Posts on conspiracy forums tie the Vulture Stone's comet event to a world-changing disaster, possibly the same one that devastated planet-wide fauna and ended Ice Age civilizations. Some of the boldest voices suggest that the site's mysterious burial around 8000 BCE wasn't just an accident or regular abandonment. Evidence supports that tons of earth were deliberately piled to shield the pillars, preserving rather than erasing. Was this effort about hiding dangerous knowledge or protecting a kind of portal from being misused? These threads connect to other ancient enigmas, like the Piri-Reis map, an Ottoman chart reputed to show Antarctica before it was locked in ice, raising the possibility that lost civilizations had knowledge of the world and cosmos far beyond what theory accepts. In 2025, nearby archaeological sites at Karahan, dating to the same era, were found to have smaller, similar obelisks and layouts, supporting the idea of a regional cultural network centered on these monumental structures. Videos and new field reports have reignited debates. Were these places observatories, ritual gathering spots, or something stranger? Controversy dogs. The current digs as well, when centuries-old olive trees were cut down in 2025 to extend excavation zones. Fresh debate was triggered over whether officials were moving too fast, perhaps trying to reveal or obscure astonishing truths. Social media lit up over claims that a newly found boar statue discovered in the mysterious Building D was being kept quiet due to esoteric symbolism hidden in its design. Göbekli Tepe's greatest puzzle, however, may be its completeness. Archaeological sites typically reveal a learning curve. Primitive huts and tools give way to more elaborate designs. Yet here, the architecture appears fully matured from the first phase. No evidence of trial and error, no rudimentary versions or simple tools evolving into advanced ones. As Dr. Un Hodder from Stanford observed in 2018, this impossible leap upends the conventional view. Maybe, just maybe, it was not agriculture that laid the groundwork for monumental buildings. Instead, perhaps, the desire to construct these ceremonial circles inspired people to settle, cultivate, and organize on a grand scale, paving the way towards civilization itself. The global puzzle only grows when you look at other megalithic marvels scattered across continents. From the immense stones of Stonehenge and the ancient temples on Malta to the underwater geometry of the Yonaguni Monument in Japan, echoes of Göbekli Tepe's sophistication resound. Colossal blocks, deliberate celestial alignments, and a conspicuous absence of intermediate, primitive attempts. In 2015, Dr. Robert Schoch of Boston University floated the bold idea that these sites were the remnants of a worldwide network of radiant cultures, ancient societies trading not just goods but knowledge, whose connections predate recorded history itself. Sumerian writings about the Anunnaki, portrayed as skyfaring teachers, resurface in Egypt's tales of Thoth, delivering the gift of writing, and in Mesoamerican legends of Quetzalcoatl teaching astronomy. Could Göbekli Tepe represent a hub in this lost web, a point where wisdom was etched in stone, left to endure whatever disasters oral memory could not? The Younger Dryas, a period of abrupt climate change nearly 11,000 years ago, offers a thread. This epoch, defined by sudden freezes and flooding, interrupted early human development, and the carvings at Göbekli Tepe, according to Martin Sweatman, may record a world-altering comet impact around 10,800 BCE. The famed Vulture Stone might immortalize this trauma, a celestial collision that left its mark not only on land but in memory. Sumer's later flood epics, stories echoing through millennia and finally written down in cuneiform, may well be ancient recollections of such an event. It's possible the builders of Göbekli Tepe, surviving the disaster, decided to shield their knowledge from future catastrophe, deliberately burying their monument as a safety vault for a time they could only hope would come. This strategy of weaving technical wisdom into myth fits with what Sumerians did, hiding agricultural secrets, astronomical laws, and codes of conduct within legends and hymns that could outlast crumbling buildings or fallen empires. But new discoveries in 2025 challenge this boundary. The presence of domestic remnants and work tools at Göbekli Tepe blurs the line between the sacred and the mundane, suggesting a settlement where ritual and daily living merged, possibly a proto-city where star-watching and invention walked hand in hand. Debates and dramas continue to swirl around the site. Conservation efforts once sparked uproar in 2018, with allegations denied by authorities that heavy equipment or concrete walkways endangered fragile ruins. The widow of site director Klaus Schmidt protested what she saw as a rush for tourist dollars over careful study, while online rumors raged about statues, their symbolism, and what might be hidden or lost. For millennia, Göbekli Tepe lay in silence. Civilizations rose and collapsed. Sumer's ziggurats reached for the stars, Egypt's pyramids dominated the desert, Rome circled the Mediterranean, yet none suspected that a forgotten hill in Turkey had quietly predated them all. During his last season among the standing stones, Schmidt often reflected on the weight of what remained unsaid. The monument's very existence is a message, intentionally carved for posterity, saying knowledge is fragile. What can be written can be erased, what is remembered can be lost, but a secret set in stone may outlast centuries. In a sense, Göbekli Tepe is not just a temple, but a time capsule, a library in limestone, designed to preserve hard-won wisdom for those who might one day remember. What troubles researchers most is the realization that Göbekli Tepe might not stand alone. Sites such as Karahan Tepe, unearthed nearby and dating to the same shadowy era, showcase similar artistry and engineering. Dr. Nekemi Carroll's 2025 excavations revealed smaller pillars and ceremonial enclosures at Karahan, suggesting a flourishing local tradition, a cultural network, not an outlier. If these discoveries are only the beginning, what else remains buried, poised to shatter or renew our understanding of early humanity? Sumer, appearing 6,000 years after Göbekli Tepe, continued the legacy, tablets hidden in deep vaults, ziggurats aiming at the heavens, myths about sage teachers from beyond. Was Sumer a second attempt to reclaim what the lost architects of Göbekli Tepe once knew? As night falls over Anatolia, the ancient pillars challenge everything we thought we understood about our beginnings. They speak of a forgotten people, able to read the sky and shape stone millennia before the first plough gouged the earth. These monoliths, silent for ages, suggest knowledge was once a sacred trust, buried against the day we'd need to remember, when stars and stories might guide us once more. For some, wrapped in shadows and conspiracies, Göbekli Tepe becomes more than a marvel of ancient engineering. It is a portal, a stargate, a relic of technologies and cosmic powers lost to time. References to the enigmatic Piri race map, supposedly showing ice-free Antarctic coastlines, rekindle the belief in ancient surveying far older than recorded history, a vision perhaps preserved or suppressed in places like Göbekli Tepe. Across the digital agora, people still debate, did its builders hide dangerous wisdom, astronomical tools, or keys to other worlds, now glimpsed as archaeologists reveal boar statues, calendar codes, and more. The questions grow bigger as modern science digs deeper. So, listeners, allow the enigma of Göbekli Tepe to lull you into restless wonder. Picture the hands that hewed these pillars, the minds that mapped their alignments, and the message they buried in Turkey's soft earth. In the hush of deep time, a forgotten civilization calls, inviting us to remember what we were never meant to lose. The sands of Iraq stretch endlessly, hiding secrets too old for memory. In the cradle where the Tigris and Euphrates first cradled human cities, another mystery pulses beneath the ruins, the miraculous, almost instantaneous, arrival of Sumerian civilization around 3200 BCE. This was not a culture inching forward in fits and starts, but a sudden burst of brilliance, engineered roadways, script with complex language, and the mathematics still ticking in our clocks. The Sumerians walked sure-footed from their beginning, as if guided by blueprints written by lost hands, concealed just beyond human sight. Could such a flawless start be the result of a forgotten blueprint, perhaps the legacy of a vanished civilization like Atlantis, or even guidance from beyond the Earth itself? In 1922, Dr. Charles Leonard Woolley, one of Britain's leading archaeologists, scraped the sun-baked dirt of Mesopotamia, expecting to reveal the slow, stumbling record of humanity's rise: broken ceramics, toppled mud brick walls, the telltale messiness of trial and error. Instead, he found an astonishing order beneath the surface. Woolley quickly realized the shock of discovery at this site was not unique. Across the river plains from Uruk to Eridu and Nippur, entire cities appeared to have bloomed out of nowhere. Uruk, with nearly 80,000 inhabitants by 3200 BCE, wasn't a scatter of huts. It was a metropolis, organized into districts for artisans and priests, bustling trade centers, and monumental ziggurats towering skyward. Written archives documented complex legal disputes and property transfers more detailed than those in many modern bureaucracies. Schools for scribes taught standardized curricula from thick clay tablets, filled with multiplication tables, law codes, and literature. Workshops mass-produced goods with a consistency and technical control that gave the impression of factory precision. As Woolley mapped his finds by lantern light, a sense of unease grew because civilizations simply do not leap into existence this way. They learn, fail, and leave behind the evidence of their missteps. But Sumer's earliest levels yield only the traces of unerring execution, as though the residents followed directions inherited from an unseen master plan. It's this abrupt appearance, this absence of a learning curve, that continues to puzzle the world's top archaeologists. In every other center of ancient culture, you can trace gradual evolution. Egypt's earliest villages slowly evolving into the grandeur of dynastic Egypt. China's river settlements inching forward over centuries before the formation of the Shang. Even earlier Mesopotamian cultures, such as Ubaid, showing small villages before larger ones. Sumer, by contrast, flips the script. Here, cities burst into being fully equipped, as though someone flicked a switch and activated a society already grown. In 1985, Dr. Harriet Crawford from Cambridge University was astonished when the earliest levels of Uruk revealed drainage canals equipped with locks and gates, systems demanding advanced knowledge of hydraulics, not the makeshift gullies of a first attempt. Where were the mistakes, the abandoned prototypes, the evidence of hard-won lessons? In March 2025, a University of Bologna team joined with Iraq's Antiquities Board to excavate Tel Pul's Sorwan, an older site with signs of early farming but nothing that bridges the gulf to Sumer's sudden urban world. Meanwhile, the British Museum's digital archive, updated mid-2025, confirms that in Nippur, the written record jumps from nothing to polished cuneiform, skipping any draft phase. These recent findings, highlighted in Archaeology magazine's summer issue, have heated the argument: was Sumer a case of spontaneous brilliance, or did its founders reconstruct knowledge from blueprints whose origins we've lost? Hawley's own discoveries deepened this riddle. One particularly meticulous tablet from labeled UM192716, recorded taxes and grain stores with a level of administrative discipline utterly at odds with the idea of a civilization just finding its feet. The cuneiform language wasn't the scrawl of hesitant learners. It appeared systematized from the beginning, governed by rules sophisticated enough to express sharp distinctions in contract law and mathematics. Dr. Samuel Noah Kramer, who spent years deciphering these texts in the dim basements of the University of Pennsylvania, described Sumerian script as surgically clean, showing no traces of developmental scribbles or experimental spellings. Language, he explained, generally grows from simple sounds to coherent words, slowly weaving in grammar and complexity, just as writing typically evolves from rough sketches to intricate syllabaries. In Sumer, this process seems to have unfolded out of view, if at all. Kramer realized with a chill that the world's oldest writing system was paradoxically too advanced for its age. This impression is supported by 2025 research, AI analysis at the Max Planck Institute, identified unique mathematical patterns in Sumerian texts closely resembling those found in the Indus Valley, raising the arresting possibility that both civilizations drew from a deeper shared source. Was the system inherited, the distant echo of a common origin, or a transfer engineered with a purpose beyond the Sumerians' immediate needs? Their astronomical accomplishments are just as startling. Sumer's star watchers charted planetary paths with an accuracy that appears impossible for a culture using only their eyes and basic tools. They knew Venus was a single planet appearing both as the morning and evening star, a knowledge that evaded classical Greece until centuries later. They anticipated eclipses, tracked lunar cycles, and as proven in the Venus tablet of Amisaduqa, calculated the synodic month down to a fraction of a second. In 1998, Dr. Hermann Hunger verified that Sumerian records determined a lunar month as precisely as possible without modern timepieces. The earliest texts show no evolutionary curve, no series of failed guesses, only expertise. Probable temples, the awe-inspiring ziggurats, provide further evidence. Hall. In 2010, Dr. Margaret Whitney marveled at one of Sumer's immense step pyramids, noting its flawless orientation to true north and the exact alignment of its staircases with rising stars. Proportions closely followed mathematical relationships that encoded astronomical cycles, while the builders demonstrated knowledge of axial precession, a subtle celestial movement requiring centuries to discern. Remarkably, every ziggurat in every Sumerian city followed the same design, as if the architects worked from a standard set of plans handed down through time. This repeated precision raises a profound question. Who drew those blueprints? The Sumerian origin stories might hold clues. They didn't claim brutal struggle and blind luck led to enlightenment. Their narratives speak of knowledge handed down from above, from the Anunnaki, from teachers whose wisdom seemed designed to last forever. The Anunnaki, those mysterious ones who came down from heaven, are described not just as gods but as bearers of the MI, those cosmic principles that encompassed writing, mathematics, and the skills of engineering. When Dr. Sarah Chen analyzed the myth Enki and the world order at Yale in 2015, she found Enki's guidance remarkably detailed, specifying canal depths, brick recipes, even judicial procedures. It wasn't vague mythology, but what looked like a well-preserved curriculum woven into narrative, designed to endure for generations. Chen was left pondering whether the Sumerians were recalling a time of real teachers, perhaps an advanced culture now lost to history, or even something unexplainable, whose wisdom they preserved but didn't entirely grasp. The word me, meaning divine decrees, suggests something rediscovered, not newly invented, as if the Sumerians were piecing together lost knowledge from a shattered foundation. The stubborn emptiness beneath Sumer's oldest cities might be the biggest clue of all. Instead of the expected layers of tentative progress, there's nothing but clean ground, as though traces of learning and failed experiments were purposefully erased. John Brennan, who excavated Eridu in 2018, described the feeling as walking into a home where all the family photos had been taken down, faint outlines of a past intentionally withheld. This pattern stirs an unsettling possibility. Sumer might not have been our first civilization, but the first we managed to piece back together, a grand reconstruction after a colossal erasure. Earlier cultures like Ubaid evolved slowly and modestly, but nothing about their hamlets hints at the monumental leap to city-scale civilization that Sumer achieved. Both cultures share a profound fixation with preservation. Sumerians locked their wisdom away as cuneiform on tablets stored in archives and vaults. Their ziggurats, engineered to endure epochs, mirror Göbekli Tepe's deliberate burial, both acts designed to keep memory alive in the face of disaster, both fearing the silence of lost worlds. Let's journey deeper. The speculation blurs into legend, and Sumer's rise looks less like invention and more like the rediscovery of a cosmic schematic, perhaps from the fabled Atlantis or other drowned worlds like Dwarka. Plato, in Timaeus and Critias, described Atlantis, a maritime power with formidable metallurgy, waterways, and astronomical prowess, claimed to have vanished nearly 9,600 BCE, just before Sumer's spark. Psychic Edgar Cayce, in his readings, imagined Atlantis as destroyed by catastrophic misuse of knowledge, with survivors seeding new civilizations in Egypt and Sumer. Was Sumerian technology a legacy of Atlantis? Were the Anunnaki Atlantean refugees? Meanwhile, off India's coast, modern marine archaeology at Dwarka in 2025 has confirmed the existence of ancient submerged structures, streets and artifacts arranged like Sumer's city grids. Radiocarbon dating of timbers points to a massive flood circa 3000 BCE, uncannily comparable to Sumer's own deluge stories. Some propose that Dwarka's knowledge spread by ancient mariners, the blueprint for civilization passed from one vanishing world to the next. There are even modern parallels in unexpected places. The Dogon of Mali, for instance, recount complex astronomical traditions, including knowledge of Sirius B, a white dwarf star they could not have observed with the naked eye. Their tales say this information was given by the Nommo, amphibious beings from the sky. Robert Temple's 1976 book, The Sirius Mystery, linked these stories to Egyptian and Sumerian traditions, with Enki, a water god, reflected in the legend of the Nommo. Are these fragments from a shared blueprint encoded in myth and star alignment, the same cosmic knowledge appearing in Sumerian and Anatolian records? Recent breakthroughs in 2025, AI-assisted studies at NASA's Exoplanet Archive have compared ancient Sumerian star charts to current observational data and found levels of accuracy that defy coincidence, fueling speculation of advanced input, possibly from outside. Fringe circles interpret this as evidence that Sumer's instructions came from the stars, Atlantean technology, or even from other realms, delivered through dreams, visions, or some kind of portal. Globally, ancient Egypt and the Indus Valley display gradual, traceable progress, but Sumer is still the exception, sudden, complete, and inexplicable. If this is true, if Sumer's brilliance sprang from a vanished inheritance, how much of humanity's actual story lies beneath our current assumptions? The Sumerians built cities, drafted detailed laws, scrutinized the heavens, and committed every triumph to clay. Yet always with the sense they were following plans not entirely their own. The archaeological vacuum of their deepest past leaves only mysteries. Dr. Willie, years after standing among those ruins, admitted it felt as if history itself had been swept away, leaving behind a deliberate gap in the story, as if to protect truths too immense for us to face. What the Sumerians left, cities, tablets, myths, and a warning, remains a testament to both the fragility and the resilience of knowledge. Within the cooled, silent hallways of the University of Pennsylvania's archives, where lines of cuneiform tablets rest in the shadows, it's easy to sense secrets from a lost world pressing against the present. When Dr. Samuel Noah Kramer ran his fingers along the sharp, articulate wedges of a tablet in 1956, he realized he wasn't reading the fumbling words of a civilization finding its voice, but the steady hand of a people who remembered or had been reminded how to write. Their cuneiform emerged, not as an invention but as a safeguard, like a data backup, a deliberate act to save the wisdom of a forgotten age. Was it a legacy from the cosmos, a code still half hidden, or simply the memory of an extraordinary world now just out of reach? The tablet Kramer studied recorded a simple grain deal between merchants, yet its structure was anything but simple. It was organized with astonishing bureaucratic rigor, its sentences layered with technical jargon and legal phraseology. The cuneiform script, named for the Latin cuneus or wedge, was not the result of slow trial and error, but an advanced technology for immortalizing thought. Every wedge, pressed by a reed stylus, obeyed complex grammatical rules, forming a system so subtle and rich it could rival a present-day linguistics textbook. Kramer's pulse quickened. How could any culture pioneer perfection on their very first documented attempt? With every translated tablet, he sensed the same unsettling pattern. Cuneiform looked less like a beginning and more like the last safeguard of something ancient, salvaged for the future. Standard archaeological stories of writing's development are tidy. In this telling, around 3200 BCE, Sumerian traders in bustling cities devised pictographs for goods, grain, cattle to keep accounts. Over generations, those pictures grew abstract, then phonetic, slowly evolving into a full writing system. But the physical evidence undermines this narrative. Denise Chamant Besserat, demonstrated that while the earliest Mesopotamian communities used clay tokens to count things, these tools faded in and out without a clear developmental bridge to the structure and sophistication of cuneiform. The oldest cuneiform tablets discovered at ancient Uruk display not hesitant sketches but standardized records, featuring multiplication tables, legal agreements, and poetry, all flawlessly inscribed on their very first appearance. As Kramer walked the dim corridors of the archives, he found no discarded drafts, no early mistakes, nothing resembling a transition between raw marks and refined script. It was as if, overnight, a complete operating system for human thought had been installed in Sumerian society, one capable of everything from tracking taxes to recording epic myths. The script proved endlessly flexible. It adapted to many languages: Sumerian, Akkadian, even Hittite. Irving Finkel at the British Museum described cuneiform as the world's first universal data format, able to encode sophisticated concepts and retain them across generations. He described holding a tablet, BM1 45793, from Lagash. It sorted out a water rights dispute with flawless syntax, capturing every legal nuance. Others from ancient schools revealed students reciting thousands of lines from math tables to hymns, but disciplined acts of preservation, as though the real mission was to save a system already perfected. Comparative religion scholar Dr. Sarah Chen, studying these motifs at Yale in 2015, argued that Sumerian stories don't depict writing as an epiphany, they describe it as the act of reclaiming lost knowledge. She found that the Enuma Elish even provides step-by-step instructions for scribes, as if each stylus mark was a careful ritual to battle forgetfulness. This idea is reinforced by the tablets themselves. Unlike papyrus or parchment, which rot away, or digital records that rely on fragile circuitry, clay, baked or sun-dried, can last forever buried in the earth. Amanda Stelzer at the University of Chicago, reflecting on the spread of Sumerian texts, marveled that the Sumerians not only made duplicates of their most important works, but sent copies to distant cities. This redundancy was brilliant when the library of Ashurbanipal burned in 612 BCE. Its clay archives survived, the heat only serving to harden and preserve texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh. Stelzer noticed this resilience was no accident. The Sumerians constructed a knowledge system designed to survive the fall of empires, disasters, or fires. What were they so intent on protecting? The contents of these tablets hold the answer. Beyond administrative ledgers, cuneiform holds mathematical treatises, star charts, and scientific manuals. The IBC 7289, famous for its geometric diagrams and use of the Pythagorean theorem, predated Pythagoras himself by a millennium. Nippur tablets record herbal medicines and surgical techniques rivaling later classical texts. In 2005, Dr. Eleanor Robson confirmed that Sumerian scribes captured base 60 calculations, the mathematical backbone of our clocks and navigation systems, to a level of sophistication unseen in so-called primitive society. The clarity of their records suggested to her that this was not a system being worked out for the first time, but knowledge being faithfully copied and preserved. Crucially, Sumer stands alone. In Egypt, you can trace hieroglyphs back to simple images. In China, oracle bones show a clear sequence of written language evolving over centuries. Yet beneath Sumer's first tablets lies a void. No scribbled pictograms, no scratched hints at progress. At Eridu, Dr. John Brennan, probing beneath the city's foundations in 2018, found these depths eerily pristine, almost as though someone had swept away all traces of how writing began. That same pattern holds for the city itself. No gradual sequence of development, just a polished creation, its hard drive wiped clean of its own installation files. The Sumerians' own legends offer subtle hints of this erasure, painting a picture of a world before the Great Flood, a time brimming with knowledge that was almost lost forever, salvaged only through the efforts of survivors like Ziusudra. These flood accounts, as told in texts such as the Atrahasis, suggest not only that cuneiform was part of a deliberate strategy to safeguard wisdom, but that its link to civilization's survival was well understood. In these myths, the Anunnaki instruct Ziusudra to carry the MI, the vital principles of an ordered world through a deluge meant to reset humanity. Archaeology backs a version of this at sites like Shurapak and Kish. Sediment layers dated to around 2900 BCE mark a dramatic break, a time in which old ways were swept aside. Dr. Margaret Whitney, examining these layers in 2010, observed that after this catastrophe, Sumer re-emerged with capabilities well beyond what any population of mere survivors should have possessed. Their culture buried tablets in vaults beneath ziggurats, seemingly aware that another disaster could wipe out everything. Dr. Andrew Collins, exploring comparative mythology in 2014, proposed these parallel stories may preserve a fragmented memory of a vanished source, a shared civilization that scattered the seeds of writing throughout the ancient world. The Sumerians, first to set these stories down, may have left us the clearest echo. Their tablets a durable backup drive for a knowledge system whose origins reach further than history can see. The technical mastery in many cuneiform tablets suggests they served more than just communication. One tablet from Lagash, BM 123456, records the construction of a canal in mathematical detail, angles, depths, water flow, all captured with scientific precision. Another from Earth meticulously tracks the motions of Venus, accuracy so high that modern scholars use it to decode ancient calendars. Dr. Sarah Chen, in 2015, argued that these were more than records. They were survival manuals meant to be sturdy bridges for knowledge across the abyss of time. Sumerian schools, the Aduba, institutionalized this process, training scribes to absorb prodigious amounts of information, from law codes to star charts, a living library system wired against oblivion. Now let's move from scholarly silence into the realm of conspiracy and cosmic inheritance. Fringe theorists speculate that cuneiform is much more than an alphabet. It is a code, a form of ancient programming. Some suggest the Anunnaki delivered activation codes for forgotten devices, hidden technologies, or even the Atlantean crystals sometimes whispered about in New Age circles. In the Enuma Elish, Enki's Me is interpreted by some as literal blueprints for harnessing energy, suppressed by elites aware of their potential. Imagine, for a moment, if cuneiform could be read as software for lost artificial intelligence, or as a set of instructions for unlocking dimensional doors. It's base 60 mathematics, a master key to interact with the universe, in ways modern science can't yet imagine. Online forums theorize that untapped cuneiform tablets in museum backrooms hold decryption keys, guarded, intentionally or not, to avoid triggering revelations that could change humanity's course. In 2025, this theory sparked new debate. AI-driven translation projects, like those at Google DeepMind, were said to have found binary-like patterns embedded in cuneiform, discoveries quickly hushed for security concerns. Some podcasters even drew connections to the Vatican's rumored secret archives, alleging that Renaissance-era scholars smuggled pristine tablets to Rome to hide secrets about cuneiform's deeper function as a cosmic memory drive. Theories aren't confined to Sumer. The abrupt appearance of the Rongorongo script on Easter Island, also undeciphered, mimics cuneiform's lack of evolution, suggesting a blueprint that once stretched across the world. The Dogon of Mali encode astronomical knowledge in rituals, as if orally preserving data in parallel to Sumer's written legacy. And now, as of 2025, when NASA's James Webb Space Telescope discovers exoplanets tracing paths written in Sumerian star lore, speculation only grows. Could those long-ago scribes have etched coordinates or lessons from the stars into the unyielding clay? The silence of those untranslated tablets feels like an echo, one that matches the archaeological absence beneath Sumerian cities, where no earlier settlements lead up to their brilliance. Dr. Klaus Schmidt, reflecting on Göbekli Tepe in 2019, saw the same strange gap. That Turkish sanctuary, 6 millennia older than Sumer, appeared without precursors, its carved stones suggesting a kind of stone script that might have prefigured later writing systems. The Sumerian obsession with preserving knowledge in clay, their priests burying tablets as myths encoded wisdom, mirrors Göbekli Tepe's deliberate burial, a shared instinct born from the fear of erasing everything achieved. Perhaps cuneiform was never a pure invention, but a carefully crafted reinvention, a last attempt to capture and save a vanishing legacy. As the light fades in library vaults and the climate-controlled darkness settles over shelves of tablets, those wedge-shaped marks endure, a message from people who understood just how fragile knowledge could be. The Sumerians, with their perfect cities, star maps, and systematic writing, didn't discover these wonders by accident. They codified what they feared the world would one day forget. They wielded their script and knowledge like a shield against the darkness of lost memory, determined to store a truth that now flickers only in remnants. But for some theory chasers and seekers in the shadowy corners of conspiracy, cuneiform transforms into a cosmic backup drive, its mysterious wedges and codes waiting to reawaken dormant powers. It's whispered that elites hide these secrets, fearing the consequences if humanity were to fully unlock what the ancients preserved. Picture the night sky above Sumer in 3200 BCE, an endless expanse, untouched by artificial light, alive with thousands of brilliant stars. From the mud-brick rooftops, Sumerians gazed up at this celestial tapestry. Was their knowledge a gift from travelers beyond our world, or forbidden wisdom, fiercely protected across the ages? In 1998, as Dr. Hermann Hunger stood quietly in Vienna's Academy of Sciences, cradling a photo of the famed VAT 4956 tablet, the scope of Sumerian astronomy became clear. This Babylonian record, copied from much older traditions, details the positions of planets, lunar cycles, and constellations for the year 568 BCE. What left Hunger breathless wasn't simply the age of the text, but its extraordinary accuracy. The tablet's calculation of the synodic month, the interval between full moons, came out to 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes, 3.3 seconds. Modern science measures it at just 0.4 seconds off. Such precision, achieved with nothing more than water clocks and shadow sticks, hinted at a foundation of understanding far surpassing the tools at their disposal. The technological finesse shines from the tablets themselves. Some, like British Museum's K2669, describe Saturn's rings as handles, Jupiter's moons as a family of orbs, observations modern scholars struggle to achieve without magnification. Nippur archives documented the precession of the equinoxes, a subtle shift in the Earth's axis that takes centuries to measure, yet the Sumerians inscribed it early on, hinting that their observations spanned many generations. The Dr. Margaret Whitney's fieldwork in 2010 found that the alignment of a major ziggurat matched stellar positions as they appeared 4,000 years ago, accounting for precession that only modern astronomy fully understands. These feats suggest careful and continuous observation, perhaps guided by records or traditions that predated Sumerian civilization itself. This mastery wasn't accidental. Sumer's base 60 mathematics became the language of the stars. It powers today's divisions of time and geometry, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, 360 degrees, and enabled Sumerian astronomers to make fine calculations of planetary orbits, eclipses, and celestial cycles. Eleanor Robson's study of YBC 7289 at Oxford revealed geometric diagrams calculating angles and fractions, anticipating core ideas of trigonometry. The base 60 system with its 12 divisors allowed the division of arcs and cycles with ease, contrasting the awkward fractions of human biology-based counting, like base 10 or base 20. Robson noted it was almost as if the system had been engineered for astronomical work, designed with goals that long predated the writing of these tablets. The Sumerians made their ziggurats, stepped pyramids, into more than sacred places. Dr. Whitney's surveys confirm their cardinal alignment. Each corner faced north, south, east, and west with precise accuracy. Stairways were positioned to greet specific celestial risings. Upper platforms were clear vantage points for tracking the heavens. The lowest foundations of Eridu's legendary ziggurat, with 17 construction layers, all adhered to the same astronomical blueprint, as though a sacred plan was being meticulously honored. Scans showed their proportions, encoded mathematical relationships tied to planetary cycles, suggesting their builders viewed these towers as scientific instruments, as much as temples. Cosmic themes shaped the Sumerian worldview in their stories. The heavens were the realm of the Anunnaki, and every movement of stars and planets played out according to divine order. The epic Enuma Elish depicts the god Marduk, organizing the cosmos, while Enki presides over both hidden waters and the boundless sky, hinting at a unity between earth and stars. The MUL, APN tablets, astronomical texts rooted in Sumerian tradition but written centuries later, list constellations, trace the movement of wandering stars, and mark the passage of seasons for both agriculture and ritual. In their enduring tablets and towering monuments, the Sumerians left more than a legacy. They left a puzzle, a coded record whose mysteries still ignite wonder and debate, whispering of knowledge perhaps not of this world, or at least somehow destined to survive the end of one. These ancient stories never saw the stars as lifeless dots in the night. They believed the heavens were deeply woven into the fabric of destiny. From the shadows of mud-brick rooftops, omens gathered from eclipses and cosmic alignments guided priests and rulers, shaping the fate of entire kingdoms. Among the most fascinating relics of their stargazing is a Babylonian clay tablet from Sippar, crafted some 2,700 years ago, carrying a map of their known world wrapped by a bitter river and dotted with mysterious, unreachable lands. The Sumerians, through these carvings, hinted at a universe that was far bigger and more layered than any geocentric model, describing 7 heavens and cosmic spheres long before those ideas took root in later science. Cylinder seals such as VA-243, mentioned earlier, may secretly illustrate a sun-centered universe, planets orbiting a central star, centuries before anyone else dared voice such an idea. This pushes us towards some tantalizing questions. What if the Sumerians weren't simply watching the stars but peering deeper, their vision extended by visitors from the stars? Zakaria Sitchin's bold theory says the Anunnaki gifted them with astronomical secrets, Nibiru's elongated orbit, explaining their uncanny grasp of celestial cycles. In other corners of the internet, tales spiral of psychic powers, crystal amplifiers, or alien devices used to catch celestial glimpses. The Dogon tribe's lore of Sirius B is paralleled by the Sumerians' Venus cycles, while the Mayan teachers like Quetzalcoatl mirror Enki as bringers of cosmic wisdom. Recent discoveries only deepen this puzzle. In July 2025, researchers decoded a Sumerian myth over 4,000 years old, revealing celestial patterns and divine interventions linked to the rhythm of the moon. This ancient story, described widely in emerging articles and social platforms, told of gods aligning the stars to guide humanity, a lost lore of the cosmos preserved in myth. Even more astonishing, a star map found in the British Museum recorded a huge asteroid impact, supporting the link between Sumerian astronomers and Göbekli Tepe's comet carvings. In early 2025, Archaeology magazines described 4 newly translated Babylonian tablets full of lunar eclipse omens, their roots tied directly to Sumer's earliest sky watchers. These omens mixed observation with prophecy, suggesting that reading the heavens was a blend of science and spiritual guidance. Questions swirl. Why hide this knowledge? Some say powerful institutions suppress these cosmic secrets, worried that the real truth, contact with beings from elsewhere, star maps for interstellar travel, or even predictive abilities, could disrupt the order we know. In 2025, a controversial AI project found complex mathematical patterns hidden in Sumerian tablets, but the findings quickly vanished from publication, cloaked in whispers of national security. The pattern only grows more fascinating with every new discovery. Ancient Egyptian astronomy and Thoth's wisdom mirrored Sumer's sky-watching. Indus Valley artifacts are covered in celestial images, even if the script remains undeciphered. In 2025, excavations in Iran uncovered hints of a pre-Ptolemaic civilization whose structures aligned with the stars, suggesting a trail of cosmic knowledge that seeded Sumer's wisdom. But the greatest silence comes from the thousands of untranslated Sumerian tablets, nearly 80% of which remain unread, probably holding untold astronomical data and perhaps even ancient codes for navigating deeper into the universe. A legacy possibly of Anunnaki teachers. As the cool Mesopotamian night wraps around you, consider the Sumerian astronomers' eyes turned skyward, believing the universe itself was alive and attentive. Their knowledge pierced a cosmic veil lost to us now, led perhaps by beings who left only clues. Now look to the distant plains of England, where Stonehenge stands as a timeless guardian beneath the sparkling stars of Wiltshire. These massive stones stretch skyward, aligned perfectly with the solstices, participating in a dance of sunlight and shadow that's mystified humanity for ages. Stonehenge itself, built between 3100 and 1600 BCE, is a marvel of ancient engineering. Its bluestones came from quarries over 150 miles away, moved without wheels or beasts, a challenge that would puzzle us even now. Dr. Mike Parker Pearson's work since 2003 uncovered wooden circles nearby, signs of a sprawling ceremonial landscape and ritual sites hosting the builders. He believes the monument united scattered groups, acting as a focal point for an ancient culture. Radar surveys in 2020 discovered a vast ring of shafts around the neighbouring Durrington walls, hinting that Stonehenge was the centre of an immense cosmic calendar. By 2025, new LiDAR scans revealed Stonehenge's connections to lunar standstills, rare cycles taking 18.6 years, showing the builders organised space and time with breathtaking precision. Crossing the sea to Egypt, the pyramids of Giza hold their own riddles. The Great Pyramid, built for Pharaoh Khufu, stands so perfectly aligned with the cardinal points that even a fraction of a degree would spoil its symmetry. Internal chambers echo the belt of Orion, proportions encode mathematical constants, and in 2023, muon imaging found hidden spaces within the stone. The region around Sumer offers its own revelations. At Göbekli Tepe, as discussed earlier, ancient pillars predating civilization by thousands of years show carvings of animals that some believe reflect a proto-zodiac. Nearby, fresh discoveries in 2025. At Karahan Tepe brought to light elongated skulls, enigmatic phallic sculptures, and elaborate 3D reliefs, dated to 9400 BCE, according to Turkish Ministry of Culture findings. These new megaliths suggest that a regional code once existed, perhaps even encoding advanced genetic or cosmic information within their carvings. Europe is crisscrossed by its own ancient alignments. The Carnac stones in France, more than 3,000 monoliths stretching in rows over miles, date back to 4500 BCE. A July 2025 Antiquity Journal study tracked their origins to early hunter-gatherers, noting that the rows were set to lunar standstills and other celestial extremes. But even more intriguing, an archaeological prospection paper from May 2025 used AI to map unseen stonework below the fields, revealing a grid-like layout that suggests these stones once focused or directed energy for unknown purposes. Scotland's Callanish stones on the Isle of Lewis, erected around 5000 BCE, form a cross-aligned to the Cael Ichis or moon goddess, at the southernmost lunar rising. This year, University of Bradford excavations uncovered significant deposits of quartz, prized for its piezoelectric energy, sparking new speculation about sonic or electric rituals in the distant past. In South America, Sacsayhuaman near Cuzco features megalithic walls composed of stones weighing hundreds of tons, meticulously joined without mortar. Though official history credits the Inca with its construction around 900 BCE, recent geophysical studies from March 2025 found vast chambers beneath, engineered for unique acoustics, perhaps to amplify ritual performances or focus energy. Across Africa, Egypt's Nabta Playa, built around 7000 BCE, sports stone circles oriented towards Orion and the summer solstice, predating both Stonehenge and mainstream Egyptian civilization. McKim Malville's latest research highlights calendar stones that helped ancient herders track cattle migrations, but their alignments suggest early experiments in stellar navigation. On the far side of the world, Australia's Wurdi Yuang stone arrangement, recently confirmed by a 2025 analysis to be over 11,000 years old, tracks the equinoxes and maintains a star map consistent with oral Aboriginal tradition, directly challenging long-held colonial mythology. Time and again, these ancient sites shock researchers with their massive scale, sudden perfection, enduring durability, and shared astronomical focus. No evidence of primitive trial and error. Conspiracies flourish in the gaps: the Orion-aligned Giza pyramids, Yonaguni's submersion, supposed government schemes to conceal Antarctic megaliths, and even alleged CIA involvement in blocking research on anomalous electromagnetic fields at Stonehenge are all hotly debated. Reddit is alive with claims about HARP-like technology, secret programs, and earthquakes summoned to cover up evidence. Claims persist, boosted by authors like Graham Hancock, that survivors of global cataclysms around 10,000 BCE established these sites to restart civilization, encoding vital information for those who would come after them. In Bolivia, Pumapunku's H-blocks, shaped with a precision exceeding Bronze Age skills, have led engineer Christopher Dunn to float ideas about magnetic levitation, while Malta's Hypogeum, an underground stone labyrinth, brims with acoustic chambers that amplify specific frequencies, possibly impacting brainwave activity during rituals. Recent scientific reports point to skeletons buried within that show unusual bone formation, fueling theories of deliberate sonic manipulation, healing, or even mind control. Controversy spills into modern times. The Georgia Guidestones, erected with astronomical alignment in 1980 and demolished in 2022 amid wild rumors, are cited as another possible node in a lost geometric code. As dusk gathers over Wiltshire and megalithic silhouettes emerge against a fading sky, these ancient monuments stand as silent sentinels of a mysterious code. Could they be a forgotten network designed to guide, to power, or to connect with something beyond our understanding? Recent discoveries, whether hidden tombs in Poland or new symbols at Karahan Tepe, add more layers to the riddle. Perhaps, like ancient libraries in clay, these stones stand guard, holding secrets about our origins, our potential, and our place in a universe still filled with questions. Tonight, listeners, let your minds settle into the unknown as we journey further into the relics of mystery. I am Mr., your companion in the dark, guiding you deeper into the enigma of ancient technology, where machines may have masqueraded as magic, and blueprints were hidden for a future rediscovery. It's a world where the Sumerian me could have signified powerful devices or lost technology, where gods gave not just wisdom but perhaps tools as well. Amanda Stelzer, in her Chicago office in 2018, pored over Sumerian accounts describing the me divine principles delivered by the Anunnaki. She came across a tablet outlining the construction of irrigation canals, perfectly angled and gated for water flow, and another detailing the smelting of bronze using exact recipes for copper and tin, strength and durability, rivaled only in recent times. Strikingly, these me were portrayed not only as instructions but sometimes as literal forces or objects, as if the legends described not just skills but physical tools. In those tales, the god Enki gives a me designed to move water. Details read as mechanical workings, not simple ditches. Stelzer realized these myths may have been meant to hide blueprints in plain sight, cloaked in the safe language of wonder and ritual. Even the massive ziggurats hold secrets of lost science. Dr. Margaret Whitney's 2010 study revealed Sumerian engineers used precise mud brick and straw ratios, a feat requiring surprisingly modern knowledge of chemistry and materials. The precise orientation of Sumerian structures with Sirius and the use of base 60 in their proportions suggest functions reaching far beyond simple worship, maybe acting as observatories or even as ancient energy devices. Some theorists believe ziggurats were more than temples, proposing they were used to harness cosmic or earthbound forces. While most mainstream experts dismiss these ideas as fantasy, Dr. Whitney was struck by how these massive monuments survived millennia of earthquakes, a testament to engineering abilities that feel, at times, almost unexplainable. As she stood atop a weathered ziggurat, she wondered if Sumer's craftsmen had been taught by masters who truly understood powers we have yet to name. Curiosity deepens with artifacts like the clay jar, unearthed near Baghdad in 1936. Though made during a later age, it may have roots in Sumerian technology. This jar contained a copper tube, iron rod, and an acidic solution, components capable of generating an electric charge. While official sources often write it off as a ritual object, its design matches the principles of simple batteries used thousands of years later. Is it possible that the Sumerians or the cultures before them knew how to make electricity for electroplating metals, healing, or even powering religious icons. In one myth, Enki ignites sparks of life to animate clay, imagery that might hide references to misunderstood technology. Modern experiments show jars like this can produce up to half a volt, enough for mild therapy or metalwork. Some hypothesize idols might have delivered tangible shocks, enhancing rituals, while others speculate these devices purified water or aided in medicine, long before such techniques were officially acknowledged. Global patterns emerge, deepening the enigma. In Egypt, temple carvings from just before the Common Era show glowing bulbs with filaments that look suspiciously like ancient light bulbs, connected to something resembling power sources. Similar glowing spheres feature in Sumerian seal impressions held by figures resembling the Anunnaki. In India, ancient texts recount tales of Vimanas, flying vessels powered by mysterious energy, possibly even Mercury engines. Maya legends speak of stargazing devices that allowed their priests to read the heavens, hinting at optical tools lost to time. These stories invite the possibility of a hidden technological tradition that crossed continents, with Sumer's cuneiform serving as its clearest surviving manual. Perhaps these were detailed technical manuals, disguised as divine laws, providing step-by-step instructions to reconstruct a world after its near destruction. This could explain why Sumerians buried tablets and built indestructible ziggurats, not just for glory, but out of a deep fear of losing everything they knew. Were they sheltering technology from a forgotten world, devices that later generations mistook for magic? Göbekli Tepe, dating to around 9600 BCE, seems tied to this legacy. Its pillars, perfectly aligned with Sirius, suggest advanced cosmic understanding, intentionally hidden away. Excavations reveal parallels between its construction and Sumer's earliest monuments. Both lack crude failures, hinting at a vanished tradition whose physical evidence has faded into myth. It's this silence, the absence of trial and error, the missing tools, that suggests a civilization whose true technology has slipped beyond our memory. Now, in the realm of speculation, some believe the Me conceal designs for anti-gravity engines or energy systems. Ancient tales speak of the Anunnaki using gold for propulsion, echoing Indian myths of Mercury-powered flying chariots. Egyptian reliefs depict what resemble lotus-shaped lights lit by mysterious means. Could these recurring motifs be fragments of a once global science preserved through story? Modern unexplained aerial craft, like the Tic Tac UFOs encountered by Navy pilots in 2004, bring fresh theories of these anomalies. Reawakened relics, their secrets reverse-engineered from Sumerian records. Some claim secret labs study old tablets for hidden blueprints, jealously guarded to keep energy and power in the hands of a few. Imagine ziggurats as ancient energy generators, perfectly aligned to tap the planet's telluric currents, or using minerals packed in their core to create piezoelectric energy from pressure. Ancient tales recount flying chariots with fire within, or heroes flying to the heavens on the back of mighty eagles, imagery that might mask real misunderstood technology. Around the globe, ancient wonders reinforce these mysteries. Bolivia's Puma Punku, with its precisely cut stones, spurs talk of lost levitation or sound-based carving. Malta's Hypogeum, an underground temple, resonates at specific frequencies that may have altered brainwaves, perhaps even serving as primitive mind control chambers. In China, the unfinished Yangshan quarry's megaliths hint at lifting technology abandoned after disaster. Recent AI analysis revealed patterns in cuneiform tablets that match quantum math, but publication was halted in the name of security. Are these instructions for building devices that could provide free energy, end conflicts, or even let humans transcend dimensional boundaries? Whispers point to the mysterious demolition of modern monuments, like that perplexing stone guide erected in 1980 and destroyed in 2022, as cover-ups for erasing echoes of ancient power. Sumer's tragic loss is not just academic. More than 80% of all cuneiform tablets remain untranslated, their knowledge locked away as the world changed or forgot. Libraries at Uruk, Nippur, and other ancient cities were burned, their innovations lost. Sifting through the shattered remains, one feels the aching weight of what humanity has let slip, a civilization that hid its machines behind legend, only to see both drift into oblivion. Yet new findings offer a glimmer of what's gone: tablets with painstaking details of materials, measurements and process recipes, potential blueprints buried in unfamiliar languages, twilight cloaks the Mesopotamian ruins, Uruk, Eridu, Nippur, standing silent in the sand, testaments to a people whose architectural and written achievements seem too advanced to have simply appeared. Ziggurats line up with stars, and stories of otherworldly teachers fill their texts. What if Sumer wasn't alone, but part of a vast network that once connected cultures across land and sea? From Turkey's ancient pillars to Japan's sunken ruins, from Egypt's monumental tombs to the Indus Valley's city grids, faint echoes remain, a web of myths, symbols, and uncanny technologies, suggesting a global exchange lost to time. Could these societies have shared an ancient communication network, powered not by speech, but by resonance, psychic ability, or technology? Were ziggurats part of a message system that stretches even into the static of unexplained radio broadcasts today? Was the old world bound together by more than legend, their secrets hidden away because someone feared what would happen if we ever truly remembered? Picture an age where knowledge sailed not on wooden ships, but on dreams and starlight, connecting distant lands along the rivers of Sumer. Dive into the ocean mystery of Yonaguni off Japan, where underwater terraces dating to 8000 BCE resemble the handiwork of skilled builders, possibly the Pacific branch of this network. Their geometric platforms seem to echo Göbekli Tepe and the precise architecture of Giza, suggesting that blueprints for these megaliths traveled along ancient maritime routes before being swallowed by rising seas. Sumer's tales of the Anunnaki bringing irrigation and astronomy may reflect the legacy of this broader tradition, with cuneiform tablets as the last surviving archive. Shared symbols knit these ancient cultures together. The spiral and tree of life appear on Indus seals, Sumerian art, and the carvings at Göbekli Tepe. Egypt's Ankh mirrors Sumer's sacred tree, and even the cylinder seal VA 243, with its cosmic diagram, has parallels in Mayan glyphs. These could form a universal visual language, a code exchanged by travelers, spoken or carved depending on their traditions. Why don't we find primitive precursors to these scripts? Perhaps the network itself relied on encoded symbols and oral memory, only later captured in writing when the Sumerians put stylus to clay. When you compare the engineering feats, the 20-ton pillars of Göbekli Tepe, Stonehenge's 50-ton sarsen stones, Giza's 70-ton blocks, Peru's interlocking Sacsayhuaman stones, you see sophisticated methods repeated without visible experimentation. Some suggest lost knowledge of sound, levitation, or rare materials, with each culture inheriting secrets that Sumer was the first to document in writing. The Enuma Elish even describes the Anunnaki teaching construction, calling them a master plan for a vanished world. The tragedy is how much of this legacy is lost. Most Sumerian tablets still haven't been translated. Submerged ruins like Yonaguni may have been archives swallowed by the sea. Scribes fought to save their wisdom, but time and ongoing erasure have clouded their achievement. Slip now into the shadows of speculation. Could this ancient network have been telepathic or technological? Some say ziggurats were transmitters, megaliths built on Earth's magnetic highways for mind-to-mind communication. Old texts describe distant voices, perhaps psychic connections spanning continents. Others look at strange radio signals and cosmic bursts as remnants of a long-dormant stone internet, occasionally reawakened by cosmic shifts. Conspiracies suggest the grid's power to unite or share free energy was shut down by authorities who saw it as a threat. Ley lines, the invisible arteries linking sites like Giza and Nazca, might once have fed this web. In 2025, leaked documents even allege experiments at Stonehenge induced telepathic effects, only to be halted for secrecy. Maps like Piri Reis raise new questions. Did explorers chart ice-free Antarctica using this grid? Long before the modern era, with megaliths hidden under the polar ice. Legends from the Vedic texts talk of mine ships traveling worlds, possibly mental extensions of the greater network. The Maya's crystal skulls are said to encode holographic information, natural data nodes for the grid. In Africa, the Dogon's advanced star wisdom, passed without instruments, evokes whispers of psychic downloads from a global information pool. The Anunnaki in Sumerian stories assigned roles and sustained the grid, with Enki's journeys described like a system admin updating distant nodes, an idea suppressed because reconnecting humanity could break profitable divides. Evidence of unexplored underwater megaliths near Cuba or India continues to surface via submersible expeditions, though findings are often classified. A 2024 effort to globally map ley lines was allegedly shut down after reports of anomalous energy. As twilight settles above Europe's ruins, the faint hum of this network lingers, embedded in Sumer's cuneiform and scattered across the world's megaliths. Sumer may have been the final chapter in a book of global connectivity, its script the last message of a fading system. Whether a web of thought or a stone-built internet, its signal drifts quietly through the centuries, waiting for us to listen and reawaken what's been lost. Inside the British Museum's silent vaults at 3 a.m., the guardians of this knowledge sit in darkness, awaiting rediscovery. In 2018, Dr. Irving Finkel walked these aisles, his light tracing fragments of Ashurbanipal's once great library, its tablets singed but saved by the fires that destroyed Nineveh in 612 BCE. The Epic of Gilgamesh survived, clay preserved in a kiln of catastrophe. Yet for every surviving tablet, untold volumes have vanished, scattered by war, neglect, or deliberate erasure. It's a pattern repeated across ages and cultures. At Uruk, the birthplace of cuneiform, entire archives were toppled and crushed by time. At Nippur, religious centers were plundered. At Eridu, the first city Sumerians claimed, empty storerooms and broken shelves testify to systematic loss. The burning of knowledge and silencing of archives leaves us to patch together our story from what remains, while tantalizing clues, locked in stone and clay, hint at the mind-bending scale of what's been forgotten. In the dim corners of the archives, Dr. Irving Finkel's hands trembled with frustration and awe, confronted by the immense loss that has left only shards of Sumer's brilliance for us to study. The scope of the destruction was not mere chance. Dr. John Brennan uncovered evidence at Uruk of deliberate erasure, broken tablets, scorched archives, signs that conquerors didn't just topple walls but targeted knowledge itself. Routinely, new powers, seeing past wisdom as a threat, destroyed libraries and records, erasing what no longer suited their rule. When belief systems shifted, texts that once held sacred value were cast into flames as heresy. Dr. Sarah Chen's research at Yale found that as Sumerian culture gave way to Babylonian, many works were dismissed, left to rot, or intentionally forgotten, with only a selection copied into new scripts. Language itself became a weapon in this slow disappearance. As Sumerian faded before Akkadian and then Aramaic, cuneiform became unreadable. Tablets, no longer useful, were discarded as worthless relics. Chen pored over lines from a battered hymn and saw cultural Darwinism in action. Only what served a new regime or the moment survived, while the deeper foundational insights were left to vanish. The result is staggering. Less than a fifth of all recovered cuneiform notebooks have been fully translated, thousands more lying silent and unseen in museum vaults. What do they conceal? Some hint at advanced science and math that would force us to rethink Sumer's legacy. One tablet from Uruk holds geometric formulas centuries before Pythagoras. Another from Nippur describes medical techniques uncanny in their detail. These tantalizing discoveries are just fragments of a massive lost treasury, most of which perished to fire, conquest, or careless neglect. Finkel, holding a piece of a shattered tablet, grasped the weight of absence, a gaping hole where the answer to Sumer's sudden leap, and perhaps their source of knowledge, might have been. Even today, modern progress barely scratches the surface. A new cuneiform tablet recently decoded recounts the tale of a storm god imprisoned in the underworld, causing earthly chaos. This recent find adds nuance to Sumerian beliefs about cosmic order, but it's a single drop in a vast, uncharted sea of unread text. Just months ago, archaeologists in Iraq discovered thousands of clay records from the Akkadian Empire, charting everything from astronomical observations to inventories of sheep and barley, showcasing a bureaucracy so thorough it feels modern. But as massive as these finds may seem, they drive home how much has been lost. Technical manuals, scientific wisdom, even predictions about eclipses that predate later Babylonian records. The Sumerians knew how fragile knowledge could be. Their myths, from the Atrahasis to stories of Ziusudra, replay the same lesson. A deluge nearly destroyed civilization, and only the preservation of the me, the guiding wisdom of writing, law, and engineering, offered hope for rebuilding. Dr. Amanda Stelzer in Chicago saw these encoded instructions as a defensive strategy, technical know-how camouflaged in holy stories, repeated aloud when texts were threatened or lost. Sumerian rituals turned blueprints into hymns, making sure the core instructions survived in memory even if every tablet was burned. Yet even this cultural firewall could not withstand fire and conquest. Eventually, only scattered myths and bits of poetry hinted at what was lost. The tragedy is not just local, it plays out across the entire ancient world. Alexandria's library vanished, with its scrolls in political and religious chaos. Maya codices fed bonfires in the Americas. Buddhist and Islamic compilations disappeared during foreign invasions. Dr. Andrew Collins, analyzing this cycle in 2014, called it the law of impermanence. Society erases the past it no longer wishes to claim, burning what doesn't fit and forgetting the rest. He compared Sumer's fate to these later disasters, questioning just how much of the human record has been lost, leaving us only inferences, like a cylinder seal that might show a sun-centered solar system, while the full explanation dissolves into dust. Recent discoveries offer hope amid the loss. In Guatemala, a forgotten Maya city was uncovered, its sanctuaries and pyramids revealing new elements of lost civilization. In Bolivia, Tiwanaku temples add detail to trade and ritual, but much is ruined. North Macedonia gave up the lost heart of an old kingdom. The Amazon's green jungles, mapped by modern lasers, reveal garden cities and ancient aquaculture shaped by people whose expertise was almost erased. New finds, sunken ships, sacred sites, even the skeleton of a Byzantine city in Jordan, demand we rewrite our story, but the immense shadow of the unseen, the lost, the deliberately destroyed, remains. The Sumerians did not go without resistance. As knowing what was at stake, they made duplicates of vital records, sending them to Uruk, Nippur, and Eridu, and buried them deep in vaults beneath enduring ziggurats. Their technical knowledge was woven into myths and recited in perpetual rituals, insulating their wisdom against fire and malice. Dr. Margaret Whitney, uncovering ziggurat walls in 2010, found astronomical records embedded in the very brickwork, a data vault designed in code. This was no mere accounting, it was an act of desperation, a civilization's effort to outlast the storms that would inevitably come. Still, destruction kept coming. When Akkadian rulers swept through, they preserved only what would serve their reign. Sumerian texts were left to time's decay. Whitney, standing among ruins, felt the presence of those lost voices, a silence heavy with everything that had slipped away. The connection runs even deeper. 6 millennia before Sumer, at Göbekli Tepe, builders took equally bold steps to save their wisdom, burying soaring pillars beneath the earth for unseeable generations. Dr. Klaus Schmidt, excavating there in 2019, saw in that deliberate burial an act of preservation akin to Sumer's. Both cultures, separated by centuries, feared the void, the threat that all they'd learned could be washed away. And in their efforts, we find a haunting echo of humanity's ongoing struggle to rescue memory from the dark. Could Göbekli Tepe's mysterious builders be the original source of Sumerian wisdom, passing down their legacy through countless generations, their knowledge surviving as whispered stories until the invention of cuneiform finally captured it in lasting form? The flood legends, describing a civilization's shattering deluge and heroic efforts to save the me of human achievement, might be a faint remembrance of this deeper loss. The Sumerians' tablets and towering ziggurats then become more than a first spark of civilization. They're a second chance, a deliberate attempt to carve memory in stone before it slipped away forever. Dr. Klaus Schmidt, standing among those ancient pillars, sensed a profound silence, one that hinted at a reality almost too large to comprehend. Yet this silence isn't always about conspiracy or deliberate secrecy. Sometimes it's simply the result of modern-day bureaucracy. Dr. John Brennan's 2018 studies of Sumerian ziggurats revealed that the answers might lie in the crossroads of archaeology, language, and astronomy. If only the rigid borders between academic fields didn't stand in the way. Funding tends to flow toward focused, safe projects, leaving more daring interdisciplinary quests unfunded. Sifting through the sands of Nippur, Brennan saw row upon row of untranslated tablets, sidelined not by malice, but by a modern system that forgets through neglect, a subtle echo of the past's more violent erasures. This institutional inertia can be just as devastating as fire and conquest. The result is a form of organized forgetting, where priceless knowledge remains locked away, gathering dust because it doesn't fit neatly into any discipline's box. Some imagine darker motives. In the spaces where secrets thrive, rumors swirl that ancient elites, descendants of sky teachers or the Anunnaki, targeted libraries for destruction to keep the most powerful knowledge under close guard, allowing only safe fragments to trickle down. Was the burning of Ashurbanipal's great library simply collateral damage of war, or a calculated purge of the most dangerous me, those cosmic principles that might grant energy or powers modern science barely dreams of? Throughout history, we see similar patterns. The Library of Alexandria set ablaze as ideologies clashed. Mayan codices burned to erase indigenous memory. Even digital archives today quietly wiped in ways eerily similar to ancient acts of control. 2025 brings hope and frustration in equal measure. New AI-powered tools promise to crack lines upon lines of cuneiform, but the process is agonizingly slow. Digitization initiatives exist, but vast swaths of knowledge remain scattered, databases incomplete, algorithms caught up in debates over ethics and access. Some conspiracy theorists claim this isn't just technical hiccup, it's a deliberate delay, managed by gatekeepers, fearful the tablets might contain the blueprints for forgotten technologies or secrets too disruptive for our age. Could there be anti-gravity formulas, ancient immortality recipes, instructions hidden in vaults, kept from the world because their release would upend modern hierarchies? Each newly translated tablet, a myth involving a storm god or a ration list from the Akkadian Empire, offers only hints, while the bulk of the archive remains locked, perhaps because it encodes a more unified revolutionary ancient wisdom than we're ready to accept. If the Sumerians were indeed inheritors and not inventors, as their own stories suggest, these unread tablets could be the breadcrumbs leading back to a lost global culture, whose greatest achievement was preserving enough for a second chance. Yet, if the silence continues, will we once again let comfort and convention choke curiosity? How often do researchers veer away from discoveries that threaten the narratives they've built careers upon? The truth awaits in museum basements, not because it's hidden, but because no one is looking. As the day fades and the vault's lights are switched off, those thousands of tablets bear witness to an ancient people's desperate fight against oblivion. The Sumerians, so keenly aware of how quickly knowledge could perish, built their entire system to withstand disaster. Every fire, every war, every act of suppression is a lesson in what's at stake. Today, our tantalizing glimpses, newly translated myths, rediscovered cities, only deepen the sense of what's missing. Maybe it's not a secret cabal at work, but a society choosing stability over boldness, yet the end result is the same, a world where the most astonishing possibilities are left waiting in the dark. Now imagine the flickering glow of a late-night office at Columbia University, where Professor Elena Kazakova pores over digital copies of a 50000-year-old clay tablet. Years of deciphering cuneiform have taught her the limits of translation, yet tonight a single word, Anunnaki, stops her cold. Its meaning constantly shifts, evading any simple explanation. For each dictionary definition Kazakova turns to, the narrative changes. Anu means sky or heaven. Ki stands for earth. So are the Anunnaki the offspring of the sky god upon the earth. Even seemingly straightforward words like me, usually translated as divine decree, can be read as cosmic law, sacred software, or actual physical instruction manuals. The Enuma Elish presents the me as gifts from the Anunnaki, But whether you see them as laws of the universe or technical guides for building canals, hive gear in cities depends on the translator's lens. Dr. Sarah Chen points out that rendering Mia's decrees makes the Anunnaki look like gods bestowing spiritual ideals, while instructions frames them as teachers or even technologists. The effect is the same. Every ambiguous word is a locked door, its key hidden in a language that has been sleeping for thousands of years, guarding the secret of humanity's own origins. Ambiguity threads its way through every line of Sumerian literature, turning their words into a shifting tapestry, where each phrase might echo a divine legend, document real history, or whisper about a civilization lost to the ages. Even with remarkable breakthroughs in 2025, we find ourselves only beginning to pull back the veils obscuring this ancient world, while discovering just how much remains hidden. Take, for example, a newly uncovered Sumerian myth over 4,000 years old, where a storm god is described as either chained in the depths or bound by fate, causing havoc in the world above. Advanced imaging made this story readable, but the unclear phrasing keeps translators debating. Is it about natural disasters, or does it secretly warn of cosmic forces beyond? In another early 2025 find, fragments from a Babylonian collection revealed eclipse omens that straddle the divide between science and prophecy. Is the shadow of the moon a literal note about a lunar eclipse or a mystical mask hiding ultimate truths? Each word, each symbol makes it harder to draw the line between astronomy and spiritual vision. Museums and digs keep offering up astonishing new details. A March discovery exposed trade ledgers from the Akkadian era, packed with obscure rituals and codes that resist translation, all because so much context has faded away. Part of the problem is just how the Sumerians wrote. There are no clear word breaks, no standard punctuation. Every sentence expects the reader to share a knowledge that died thousands of years ago. Even as cutting-edge AI accelerates the pace of translation, computers still stumble on idioms, double meanings, or jokes that could cover secret messages. You can see their caution in the myths themselves. In the Atrahasis epic, the wise god Enki teaches Zuazudra how to keep the Mi safe against a coming flood, as if making a record was the last offense against oblivion. Dr. This tension exploded into public controversy in 2025, when a newly translated Omen tablet seemed to predict both weather disasters and social upheaval with uncanny precision. Early interpretations fueled excitement. Was this prediction or coincidence? But updated, conservative translations stripped away much of the spectacle, blaming the ambiguity in wording. Some argued this was self-censorship, a way to silence those who dared see more than safe, casual explanations. Another new find, a Sumerian artifact with mysterious diagrams, ignited debate. Is it a map of the heavens, or just symbolic art? Each time, translation choices can bury truths that don't fit established stories, keeping the field comfortable for peer review and grant proposals. This isn't just a problem of Sumer. Myths from Egypt, like Thoth carrying wisdom from above, and the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica, mirror the Sumerian Anunnaki legends. Dr. Andrew Collins has argued these might all be clues, echoes of a once-connected civilization whose knowledge was scattered across continents. The Sumerians, by carving stories into tablets, may have captured the purest signal, serving as a backup for the fading wisdom of lost ages. Unlike Egyptian or Mayan script, which gradually evolved, cuneiform seems to have burst onto the scene from nowhere, fully formed. Collins' comparative work wonders, are we missing the blueprints of a lost civilization encoded in these ambiguous symbols, their legacy now tangled by translations and lost context? In 2025, fresh discoveries only add to the confusion. Guatemala's new Maya excavation features glyphs shifting between royal records and prophecy. Scientists in the Amazon struggle to decode hybrid scripts from garden cities. In North Macedonia, a vanished capital's inscriptions blur Greek local dialects and myth. The story is always the same. Without the lifeblood of spoken tradition, writing becomes a puzzle of meanings, every translation another roll of the dice. Even in Sumer, the deepest archaeological layers offer nothing, a deliberate blank slate that echoes the intentional burial of Göbekli Tepe's pillars thousands of years before. Maybe Sumerian writing is the last spark of a tradition now forever obscured by the loss of its original audience. Some push this ambiguity further, from oversight into suspicion. Fringe communities insist the double meanings and cryptic wordplay aren't accidental at all. Instead, they're deliberate defense mechanisms, hiding secrets about visitors, forbidden technologies, or even basic scientific knowledge. Modern gatekeepers, whether academics or imagined societies, may keep the pace of discovery slow on purpose, controlling what emerges. How else, they ask, do you explain the fact that, even with powerful AI helping us, the great majority of tablets remain untranslated, the most surprising breakthroughs leaked in small doses? It isn't hard to imagine a Sumerian word for heaven meaning starship, portal, or something physical, yet translated simply as divine realm for the comfort of historians and the public. 2025's debate over whether an eclipse omen was apocalyptic or just poetic is just the latest example of this dance. Is another newly found cylinder seal, a map of the solar system, or just an artistic scene? As ambiguity wins out, the real possibility is always denied. Globally, similar patterns repeat. Mayan glyphs, long dismissed as quaint, now reveal not only environmental cycles but advanced astronomy. Skeptics can use uncertainty to hand-wave away anything too ambitious. Yet a mountain of ambiguous symbols may hide the fingerprints of ancient science, with new myths decoded in 2025, like stories of gods locked below the earth. Historians are left wondering, is ambiguity just the result of time and loss, or a code built intentionally to guard what only a few were ever meant to know? As darkness settles around Professor Kazakova, the wedges on her computer screen pulse with mystery. She knows these words were crafted for people who shared the Sumerian worldview, not for us peering in from millennia away. Now that same writing, once meant to immortalize knowledge, sometimes does the opposite, closing doors and obscuring intent. Perhaps the most profound truths remain buried, not just in dusty vaults and eroded ruins, but in layers of meaning that may never be fully unraveled. Shine a light on cuneiform's ambiguity, and you see a language caught between clarity and concealment, a bridge to a past that longs to be found, yet is forever at risk of slipping back into the shadows. And behind thick museum walls, deeper than the silence of midnight, are the untouched tablets, clay witnesses to a world whose wisdom may be hidden, not just by history, but by design. Academic gatekeeping is rarely obvious, but the results are clear. The most important clues about humanity's origins often get pushed aside, not for lack of evidence, but because they don't fit the story we've already agreed to tell. For every researcher daring enough to follow a trail into unfamiliar territory, there are countless others discouraged by funding restrictions, career risks, or the weight of established truth. When BM 145793, a Sumerian tablet packed with accurate astronomical equations, was discovered, young Dr. Hassan felt a surge of hope, a sign that history could still surprise us. But when his findings were waved off as flukes or scribal slips, he became just another academic casualty, reassigned, silenced, and ultimately left to pursue his work in obscurity. Underneath this individual setback is a broader, persistent problem. In 2018, Dr. Irving Finkel's grim estimation was that less than 20% of all recovered Sumerian tablets have ever been thoroughly studied. The rest, tens of thousands of potential discoveries, gather dust in forgotten archives, full of untapped insights about engineering, surgery, and even math that leaps centuries ahead of its supposed origins. For every artifact describing advanced geometry or medical technique long before the Greeks, there are hundreds more that get ignored. Not for lack of value, but because they fall outside the well-traveled paths of safe research. People like Finkel, sorting through dim-lit museum vaults, feel the pressing weight of lost opportunity. Time, money, and expert attention all flow to projects that reinforce what we already believe, while the true outliers, like advanced hydraulic systems or odd medical formulas, sit unstudied. The reality is that the rules of academia often serve as silent filters, discarding inconvenient data long before it reaches the public. Sarah Chen always believed in letting evidence speak for itself, but at Yale in 2015, even she faced pressures. The risk of labeling Sumerian myths as technical blueprints or acknowledging the Anunnaki as something more than legends threatened her academic future. Her colleagues warned her to pull back and keep speculation to herself. Publishing safe, incremental work pays off. Revolutionary theories, by contrast, are quietly buried by the need for tenure, grant renewals, and positive peer reviews. Even when new discoveries are shared at conferences, like the 2025 study pointing to a possible lost language embedded in Göbekli Tepe's carvings, the lack of institutional support means they rarely get heard above the buzz of more traditional scholarship. Every month brings new stories. This year alone, proposals linking Sumer's knowledge to other ancient megaliths have been dismissed by big-name universities, even as new finds in Turkey add fuel to the fire. Leaked emails, shadow-banned forums, and derailed crowdfunding campaigns all point to a system that preserves established history at the expense of genuine curiosity. Some believe it's just bureaucratic inertia. Others whisper about hidden hands, shadowy networks that go beyond protecting reputations, intent on keeping revolutionary evidence locked away. It's a whisper in the halls of museums, a rumor in every archaeology class. Only acceptable work gets funded. Only safe discoveries get published. When Sumerian tablets are finally pulled from the vault, copies get studied if they confirm what we expect. The rest, those hinting at lost technologies, star-aligned monuments, or strange codes, are quietly set aside. The parallels with historic acts of suppression are chilling. Alexandria's library, Mayan codices, Buddhist and Islamic texts, all lost to the whims of shifting power, erased not by time, but by fear of what might be revealed. And yet in the silence, the tablets remain. The buried pillars of Göbekli Tepe stare silently up at a sky they were carved to track, while Sumer's libraries, built to safeguard knowledge against the apocalypse, stand as reminders of a fight for memory that may never end. When the flames consumed Nineveh in 612 BCE, the very disaster Sumerians had always feared came to life. Some tablets survived only by accident, fired into hard immortality, but many more were reduced to dust. Today's vaults, cut off by lack of attention or deliberate restriction, carry the same sense of loss. In 2025, any sign of momentum, AI translation efforts, new readings of myths, is met with slow-walking, sudden funding cuts, or warnings that the work is simply too controversial. Some say it's just human nature. Every new regime, every new worldview, sweeps away what it finds threatening or irrelevant in the remains of those who came before. Others believe there's intent, shadowy interests who see real danger if secrets of humanity's past emerge. Online, rumors swirl about hidden artifacts, forbidden discoveries, and archives kept secret by those who've always feared what remembering too much could mean. Are whispers of ancient UFO files and suppressed megalithic connections simply fantasy, or the tip of an iceberg much older and deeper than we know? In the quiet halls of modern institutions, a new kind of forgetting has taken hold, not through fire or conquest, but through the everyday machinery of research priorities, funding decisions, and self-censorship. As the stars rise over modern city skylines, the question lingers: how much of what we call progress is built on the rubble of stories never told? Sumer rose from the sands with wonders we still can't explain. Yet, each time a breakthrough looms, a familiar silence falls. Whether the cause is fear, inertia, or something far more coordinated, one truth endures: history remembers what we choose to remember, and the secrets that slip through those choices are sometimes the most extraordinary of all. What if our story isn't one of steady progress, but of civilizations forever rising, collapsing, and reconstructing from the ruins of forgotten worlds? Sitting late at night in her quiet office, Chen senses something uncanny. It's as if Sumer was never learning as it went, but reconstructing a forgotten machine, working from hints and scattered instructions. Their myths back this up. The Enuma Elish describes the Anunnaki arriving not with devastation, but with the MI, the blueprints to restore what was lost. Another epic, Atrasis, tells of Zoazudra, the flood survivor, chosen to save the MI as the world reset. Each story flickers with memories of survival, as if the past had been shattered and saved in clay and song. Even the archaeological evidence seems to fit. At Shurapak and Tish, sediment records show a massive flood around 2900 BCE, wiping out well-established cities and replacing them briefly with simpler settlements. Yet when Sumer rises again, it's fully armed with base 60 math and star-aligned temples, as though centuries of learning had been tucked away and restored overnight.
Doctor.
Brennan's 2018 dig at Nippur found no gradual build-up under the city, just clean, undisturbed earth, as if someone had swept away all traces of what came before. This idea gains strength when you step back and look at the planet's mysterious monuments. Giza's pyramids, Stonehenge, the sunken Yonaguni, temple off Japan's coast, all sharing the Sumerians' fascination with the heavens, all built to last, and all lacking a clear chain of progress. Dr. Andrew Collins, comparing these wonders, sees hints of a global disaster, rising seas, falling meteors, scattering the blueprints of a lost civilization. Each society that emerged after was playing recovery, not invention, rebuilding with whatever fragments they could remember or salvage. The Sumerians seemed all too aware of how fragile this recovery was. Their ziggurats were more than temples. They were databanks, their proportions encoding the stars, the thick walls hiding tablets in vaults meant to outlast fire and time. Stelzer found a hymn carefully masked as poetry that actually reads like a construction guide. Every angle, every measure, disguised in ritual language to slip through the cracks of memory loss. Yet, despite these efforts, disaster still claimed most of their knowledge. As Doctor, perhaps our own era isn't so different. Today, our entire civilization stands on a digital mountain, fast, complex, but precariously balanced. Chen, reviewing her findings in 2020, noted the risk a single disaster, a cyber attack, a blackout, a climate crisis could wipe away our libraries, leaving only scraps for survivors to rebuild with, repeating the trauma Sumer described in its mythic floods. As those ancient stories warn, what we see as progress may only be another climb from the last reset. The parallels grow disturbing when you plunge into modern conspiracy. Today's technologies are woven into this web of suspicion. Satellite grids following the lines of ancient ziggurats, quantum computing said to be based on blueprints found in forbidden Sumerian texts, AI tools supposedly seeded by knowledge from long-lost civilizations. Fringe researchers point to modern military satellites, UFO sightings near ancient sites, even rumors of artifacts and relics hidden in secure bunkers, as if preparing to rebuild after the next catastrophe. All around the globe, stories of lost worlds echo the Sumerian cycle. Atlantis sinking to the abyss, Mu disappearing beneath the waves, the Indus, the Maya, the Vedic Yugas, spiraling from golden ages to dark ones and back again. Mayan calendars counting down to dramatic resets. Indian scriptures describing ages that always end and begin anew. Every story the same pattern: creation, destruction, survival, and restoration, on a loop that feels unbreakable. Even our attempts to simulate past climates and reconstruct prehistory with AI wind up mirroring these cycles. A 2025 study suggesting climate upheavals show clear signs of interference. Ore design was pulled almost as soon as published, sparking fierce debate about who controls our collective memory and who benefits from our amnesia. What if we're just the latest in this endless spiral, building our wonders, certain of permanence and always one step away from losing it all? What if the real inheritance of the Anunnaki wasn't any single technology, but the knowledge that progress must always be safeguarded because it's far more fragile than we dare believe? As we listen to these ancient voices, it's hard not to see echoes in our own modern world. Today, our cities hum with invisible technologies. Satellites navigate using Sumerian math. The ticking of our clocks traces back to their base 60 computations. Yet the same question that haunted Sumer lingers in our time. Can knowledge built on fragile foundations survive disaster, neglect, or the ruthlessness of power? Are we, in our pride, blundering into the same fate that silenced Sumer, where a single cyber attack, a climate shock, or a deliberate act could wipe away our digital libraries, our collective wisdom, and leave our descendants to rebuild from whatever scraps they managed to find? Standing in the archives, tracing the sharp lines pressed into ancient tablets, Dr. Chen and scholars like her sense the reality beneath the myth. The stories are not about invention, but about recovery, about civilizations that obsessed over preserving their secrets, knowing how easy it is for brilliance to fade. Their solution was redundancy and stone. They buried tablets in vaults, sculpted myths to carry hidden knowledge, and built ziggurats to last millennia, encoding star positions into architectural blueprints. Yet despite all this care, most of their wisdom has vanished. Dr. Finkel in 2018 estimated that a staggering 80% of Sumerian clay tablets have never been translated. What remains of their knowledge of the stars, of medicine, of engineering, is only a scattered puzzle, most of it forever locked away by the hands of time. What happened to Sumer happened again and again around the world. The Library of Alexandria burned, Mayan codices were destroyed, Buddhist manuscripts disappeared in upheavals. Each time, civilization's great archive fell to disaster, to neglect, or to the designs of those who controlled what knowledge was kept and what was erased. In myth after myth, from Noah's Ark to Manu's raft, there is the memory of a collapse and a lone survivor tasked with saving the blueprint for a new world. Researchers like Dr. Collins believe these are not just allegories. They are flashes of a recurring pattern. Societies rise, knowledge flourishes, and then too often it crumbles, leaving the survivors to start again. Recent discoveries only amplify this sense of vulnerability. At Eridu, called the first city by the Sumerians, new finds reveal intricate temple life, but also show how much has been lost to dust and time. A recently deciphered Sumerian tablet tells the story of chaos brought by a storm god, a tale perhaps meant as a warning about the power of nature or the risk of losing control. In Guatemala, uncovered Mayan ruins hint at cosmic wisdom lost to collapse. Every new discovery is both a revelation and a warning. In 2025, hacks and outages showed how fragile our infrastructure really is. Some suggest these disruptions are tests, deliberately set to control what survives and what is forgotten. Theories circulate, maybe ancient floods and resets were no accident but engineered events, orchestrated by elite groups hoarding the knowledge most worth saving. Some believe AI itself is based on secrets buried long before, and today's technology, satellites, digital grids follow cosmic alignments the Sumerians themselves once mapped. The shapes of cycles remain, and the question is whether they are accidents or carefully managed resets. The night deepens. The stars over Sumer, the same ones that watched Sirsudra as the floodwaters rose, still burn. They challenge you now not to forget, to claim the legacy buried in the fragments, and to break the pattern before the next deluge washes our stories away. As the shadows grown long, take this final lesson into your dreams. Civilizations are fragile, memory is sacred, and the fight to preserve truth never really ends. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Hodge, on this passage through shadowed corridors and buried truths. Rest well, question deeply, and carry the spark of curiosity forward. For in these ancient fragments, a warning and a hope remain if we choose to listen. Your intuition pounds in your chest, that chill, that whisper in your mind. It's not just about history, but about a larger game entirely. Sumer wasn't the beginning of civilization. It was humanity scrambling to reassemble the shattered brilliance of a vanished golden age, a world washed away by disaster or wiped clean with careful intent. The Anunnaki, whatever you believe they were, didn't simply leave us myths. They handed down the me as blueprints for survival, written to endure when all else crumbled. But pay attention, every accident, from the fires that gutted libraries to floods that buried knowledge, isn't just misfortune. These are tactical resets, patterns perhaps engineered by shadows working in the background, thriving as long as we sleep. Today in 2025, we stand on the knife's edge. Artificial intelligence is finally reading those ancient tablets. Satellites reveal networks etched in stone across the globe. New discoveries bubble up. Sumerian myths interpreted as cosmic warnings. Artifacts that hum with hints of suppressed technology. Yet for every revelation there's a sudden stall. Why are secrets delayed? Why are anomalies dismissed? Why do breakthroughs conveniently vanish? Ask yourself, who benefits from keeping these truths in the dark? Is there an elite clutching forbidden Anunnaki relics, orchestrating cyber crises, or digital floods to steer the world and hoard power for themselves. This isn't just ancient history dusted off for idle interest. This is your wake-up call. This is a signal to act, not to drift quietly back to sleep. The cycle keeps spinning. Göbekli Tepe deliberately buried, Sumer rising only to fall. Now our digital civilization shimmers atop fragile ground. If we coast along, trust the official silence, and ignore the warnings, the next collapse will catch us rebuilding from ruin again. Don't mistake the mountain of untranslated tablets, locked in museum vaults, for simple oversight. They are guarded. The knowledge they hide about stargates, energy technology, star maps, and lost networks isn't just lost by chance. It's been hidden because it threatens those who prefer control to awakening. Think about it. Baghdad batteries generating electricity, Dendera reliefs that look like ancient lights, Vedic Vimanas described as flying machines. These aren't mere legends. Machines confused for magic, misunderstood or intentionally dismissed, could offer liberation if brought into the light. Modern sightings, tic-tac craft defying our best physics, surging in 2025, suggest that echoes of forbidden tech are re-emerging just as society needs them most. But instead of open research, we get classified files, cynical debunking, and a barrage of noise designed to drown out the real signal. But you're not powerless. Truth seekers pierce the veil, and together we can ignite a new conversation. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you really think the Anunnaki were? Ancient gods? Visitors from space? Guardians of time or protectors of lost knowledge? Have you stumbled on an artifact, a story, a dream that doesn't fit the script? Speak up, challenge the narrative. This community, this digital circle, exists to push back, to shine light where others pull shades. Subscribe and join the Mystery History for Sleep family, where every episode pulls another secret out of the shadows. Share this story, post it to forums, social media, anywhere curious minds gather. Vote below for what mystery you want to see unraveled next. The stone-stepped cities beneath Yonaguni's waves, Vimana ships roaring across Indian skies, or the frozen megaliths of Antarctica hiding a lost portal. Every share, every comment, every voice helps defeat the silence. And remember, the Anunnaki's legacy isn't buried forever. It lives in curiosity and the drive to know. We break the cycle not by repeating history, but by refusing to go quietly into the next dark age. As you close your eyes tonight, let Sumer's warning echo: knowledge is fragile, but curiosity endures. Never stop questioning. Refuse to let the gatekeepers decide what you're allowed to believe. This is Mr. H, your companion on this journey through mystery and myth, tonight and every night. Keep your eyes on the stars, your mind open, and your spirit ready to join the quest. Good night, truth seekers. Dream fiercely. And as dawn breaks, be ready, because together we can reclaim our history, fire up the lost world once more, and shape the next chapter instead of letting it be written by someone else. But don't just drift away yet. Let urgency linger. Our future stands on the brink. If power players engineer new resets, it'll be because the rest of us stayed silent. Vote below which secret calls to you. Yonaguni's sunken stones, Vimana blueprints, Antarctic gateways, or something different. Drop your theories, stories, or questions wherever seekers gather. Light up the discussions in places the gatekeepers can't silence. Together, we are the spark that will not go out. Let the stars inspire you, as they did Sumer's watchers, and know that truth waits for those brave enough to ask again and again what's really hidden in the shadows. Good night.